Fox's mansion in a truck. It was and it was on fire, and he pulled the dude out. He got him out of it and pulled him to safety.
I'm going with Kirsten because he got out of his mansion.
I thought what was more surprising to me was that Jamie Foxx in his house knew where a pair of scissors was. Because even in my house, I don't know where they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right?
You have to ask the lady of the house, where do you put the scissors? You know what? My boyfriend asks all the time, like, where are the scissors? I'm like, where they are all the time. They're in that same drawer every time.
I want to know if he ran down the driveway or did he have to drive down the driveway?
Good question.
Or did he have like a little golf cart?
Yeah, segue.
He's in good shape.
If you look at the whole scenario, though, it shows you, like, not only was he, willing to go out there and put himself at risk, not only was he willing to comfort this guy, but he was also sort of acutely aware of his surroundings. You know what I mean? Like, he knew something had happened out front. He wasn't locked away somewhere in a viewing room or, working out in his gym or something. He was like, oh, man, somebody might be hurt. Let me go see if I can help. And that, to me, is just like, that's the way everybody should be, let alone we're talking about a guy who probably, most people would assume would be too busy to help.
Yep.
Absolutely, and he did call 911, and then he went outside, so he's a man of action.
Absolutely. Okay, so where are we at here?
We're 2-2.
Looks like 2-2.
We did that last week, too, didn't we?
Yeah, last week we had a tie,
Bowie and Rickman.
We need that fifth person for the tiebreaker every week.
I know. Let me see. Where's Janetti? Janetti's not. Let's do this because our guest is on the line, Saurav. Let's get him on.
Well, Janetti would be
Saurav.
voting for Kardashian.
Hey, how's it going?
Saurav. Good. How are you? Have you heard our conversation?
I've been listening to the Oscars, and what you guys have been saying has been very interesting.
We're doing this new segment now called the Totally Driven Person of the Week. Who do you think should be our choice? Should it be the Oscar with the Oscars so white, or Jamie Foxx for saving that the person that crashed in front of his house?
Well, I'm going to have to pick the second because I've got a bit of a problem with the Oscars so white issue. Part of it. But I'm going to, just because I've got quite strong feelings about it, I'm going to go with the Jamie Foxx because anyone helping out somebody else is something that should be applauded.
Absolutely. See, there you go. Good call.
Bam. Tiebreaker broken. I love it.
How about that? And that's all the way from the UK. So it's somebody who's kind of, unbiased.
It was an international vote. It's awesome.
There you go. Cool. All right, Kristen. Well, I guess we'll be talking to you next week. Thank you so much. We got to get we're going to start doing the Kristen Burt show.
It's like a big debate every week.
I know, and we could go on for hours, and it's great.
It's awesome. I'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, take care, Kristen. All right, there
Bye-bye.
she goes. See ya. Kristen Burt. You can find her all over social media. Just check her out. Look for her. KRISTYNBURTT. And it's now time to officially welcome our guest, our old friend. We haven't talked to him in a while. This guy is a writing machine. He's super busy. He's across the ocean. He's in London. He's in the UK. And he is totally driven. And he is Suarav Dutt. Suarav, how the hell have you been?
What's up, guys? I've been very well. It's good to be here. Great to be on your show, which is just getting stronger and stronger. But I've been well, and it's great to be here.
Thank you for staying awake to come on too. I know it's late over there.
Hey, it's no worries, and I don't sleep. I don't know a writer that does sleep.
Yeah, I don't know how you do sleep. Like this latest book that came out is Wild Horses, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And is that like number 12 or 13 for you now?
Well, in terms of because I like to break stuff up in terms of there's the non-fiction stuff, which is all the movie star biographies, or Mickey Rourke, Corey Haim, all that stuff, which is what we talked about the first time I think I was ever on your show. And then there's the novels, and I think of those there's been maybe 4 or 5. There's been the horror ones. There's been this book called The Butterfly Room, which has been doing really well. And then there's Wild Horses, which is like brand new. So yeah, in total, probably about 12. But in terms of novels and fiction, this is probably 4th or 5th, I think.
Wow. Yeah, and you mentioned The Butterfly Room. I saw you. I was going through, and I saw you were like on different TV talk shows in other countries, like in Russia and Iranian TV, talking about the book. That's pretty incredible.
I mean, thanks. Of pretty much everything I've done, that book, The Butterfly Room, is the one that's really taken off. It's struck a chord with a lot of audiences around the world, and it's led to like appearances on BBC Radio, Press TV, which is, like you said, the Iranian channel, Russia Today. It's been on like even a few sort of websites, Fox affiliated stations, ABC, MSNBC, and it's probably because it's about a very serious topic, which is about women's rights, and women's rights has been in the media a lot over the last year or two, and this book's been out in less than a year, but it really got the attention of a lot of people and a lot of people in the media, and here in the UK, for instance, I mean it's got through to a few celebrities, a few members of Parliament, wow. even our Prime Minister managed to get through to David Cameron. But it's like the Oscars So Why issue. It's something that's very, it's a global issue about women's rights. It's about homophobia. It's about domestic violence and abuse. And people were interested in what it had to say because it was based on true accounts. What I did was I interviewed loads and loads of women all across the world who had suffered some sort of abuse, and it was about their true stories. So obviously, they say the truth is a lot stranger than fiction, and in this case it was, and in this case it turned out to be a lot more interesting for people. Yeah,
like this, this was like a real, this is the first time you probably went like this serious on a book.
Yeah, I mean, I am. So, like I said, I started with all the movie star stuff, and at some point, I said to myself, well, if I want to be known as a writer, as an author, I want to be known for writing about my stories, not the lives of other people, if that makes sense.
Sure.
You know what I mean. And I like a lot of totally different genres and stuff, so I started writing horror. And horror is a great genre. Horror's got great fans, but overall, I'm a sort of guy who I like to write about serious subjects. And I thought to myself, I could keep writing about horror for many, many, many years, but I don't want to be known as a person who writes horror. I want to be known as someone who writes about different things and serious topics. So I'm quite opinionated about stuff. I blog a lot on my website, and this was a topic that I found really interesting, and I wanted to write about something serious. I wanted it to be my first sort of serious topical book, and topical is another thing I like writing about. And I thought to myself, well, if I write about something that's got a sort of universal appeal, something that people care about. Obviously, the Butterfly Room, it was targeted for female audiences, but a lot of men have been reading it and really enjoying it. And I think, at some point, a writer or any writer or director or screenwriter, whatever, at some point they want to write about something that's, it's topical, it's got universal appeal, it's something which is important. It's a bit of a cliche to say, books or films can change the world or anything like that. I've always sort of laughed when people say that. But in its own way, it needs to contribute something to the discussion, get people thinking about stuff. And I thought to myself, I love writing about zombies and I like writing about ghosts and stuff like that, but it's not really going to, in the scheme of things, it's not going to get people talking about stuff. For me, what's important are talking about things that are serious, things that matter. And like in the future, I mean, I'd want to write about stuff, more political things, humanitarian stuff. And I've always been a sort of guy who I believe in charities and the work they do. And with the Butterfly Room, it proceeds of that go to a lot of charities. So like Amnesty International, for example. And, you know, sort of come full circle now, and with Wild Horses is, again, it's a very strong drama. It's about a serious issue, and it's about cancer. It's a fictional story, but it's something a lot of people can relate to. So I think I thought I forgot what your question was, babe. To get around to it, writing about serious stuff, I just think is more fulfilling. You know, stuff like the Star Wars and all that stuff, that's cool, that's enjoyable, I love it. But I can't see myself doing that for 20 years.
Yeah, you know, that's one thing, though, too, like, that you really don't see many writers do. I mean, some will kind of stay on that same path. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you really, you go across all different spectrums. I mean, whether it's you're writing biographies or tackling issues like with that, or you're writing about the zombies. I mean, you really go full spectrum.
Yeah, well, I think any sort of creative person has those different sides to them. That's the reason why a certain director does different types of movies. There might be a theme running through them, but they're all different. And what I wanted to do is it's a good way to test yourself, because, you know, I've been writing for a few years now. I want to be writing for many more years, and the best way to test yourself, to test out audiences, is to try different things. It's important,
right,
whether you're a musician or you're an actor or whatever. You get stuck in the same rut. You can be typecast in the same way actors are typecast, you know.
Sure.
So it's like it reminds me of you know, you must know Wes Craven, the great the horror director who died recently, Nightmare on Elm Street director. So he was known for horror all throughout his career, but at one stage he did a movie called Music of the Heart with Meryl Streep, and it's probably not a film many people know about or even knew he ever did or existed, and that's because it wasn't horror, it was totally different. It was a human drama, and I don't think the film did great. It certainly didn't do as well as Freddy Krueger. But I don't want to be that person who sticks to one line forever, and then when they do decide to do something different, it doesn't really catch on. So, I mean, I think it's important for any creative person to have different faces, because that's what creativity is, and it's a good way of testing your skills. You know, if you're really that good, or as good as you think you are, you can do different things, and you can reach different people. It's important to reach different people. I mean, I get just as much a buzz out of people who dig Butterfly Room and my Mickey Rourke books as they love the cannibal books or the you know, the Exorcist type books. So you know, it's important to test yourself and to just do different things.
Now, how about? I don't think you've tackled like this style of writing. Like, how about like a romance novel?
Yeah. Well, at some point I've got to do something like that. I think the first thing I ever did with Broken Sky was it wasn't romance exactly, but it was a bit softer. But you know, romance is. I don't tend to write things where the outcome is rosy, you know. I don't like writing about happy endings. I'm not one of those kind of guys, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to do it just for the challenge, and I certainly think I will do it at some point. But I think romance doesn't have to be all, you know, happy, smiley. It can be the darker side of it. So, like in the book I've just done is about two brothers who are estranged, and they've got a lot of problems between them, but they have to unite in the end. And I think the story itself is very touching, and that in itself is its own kind of romance, but it's a kind of bromance, it's a kind of brotherly love that comes about.
Right.
But it's a tough love, and I think that sort of tough romance is much more interesting, and it sort of affects you a bit deeply. I mean, I'm not one of the guys who I don't think many guys do, but I wouldn't watch something like The Notebook and think that's really romantic, but I would watch something like The Deer Hunter, and I would think that's in a way more romantic because you're in tears at the end, but for completely different reasons. But you're still touched, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Now, one thing too, like I was going through, like the book is available on Amazon, as a bunch of your books are, and I was looking at the reviews, and the one thing that really stood out in a bunch of the reviews, it was mentioned quite a few times that was like the book was a deep book, and I was wondering, like, when you're going deep like this, whether it is Wild Horses or another one of your books, do you take anything from your own personal life and spin it into these books?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think any sort of, if you have to be honest in whatever you do, I've always believed that if you're going to write something about something serious, you have to be honest. And any sort of writer, any creative person will tell you that a lot of yourself goes into your art, into your work. So aspects of your life creep in, even if you don't want to talk about them. They creep in, whether it's about family, whether it's about a broken relationship, whether it's about, maybe you had a bad relationship with your father, with your brother, with your sister. There's stuff in there, like, for example, there are moments, there's dialogue where I've had that same dialogue with someone in my own life during a very difficult period, and I've used that just in the same way an actor would use that for a scene or whatever. And when you write about this deep stuff, you don't intentionally set out to talk about your own experiences at all. Like, for instance, Wild Horses is about two brothers. I don't have a brother. I'm actually an only child. But and I wouldn't know what that feeling of having a brother is like. But when you start writing about this stuff, and all these feelings start coming out, you can relate that to a friend who is just like a brother to you, or a feeling that maybe something you didn't have from your father or from your uncle or from your mother is replaced by a friend who's a sort of substitute. And so you don't sit down and you don't think about, well, I'm quite angry at my father because he used to criticize my skin, or the fact that I used to have loads of zits or something. You don't think about that or consciously think about it. But when you're writing about something from, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe 5 days ago, creeps in, and it's unintentional, and then you think to yourself, well, this is a bit personal. No one else in the world is going to know about this except me. Do I throw it out? But then I think, no, you need to keep it in there. You need to push yourself, because I think the minute you duck out and the minute you chicken out, you're not being honest to yourself. And that's the worst thing any creative person can do, is to lie or to not face up to the truth of what it is you're writing. I mean, if you're going to write about something as serious as cancer, for example, whatever, and you don't talk about experiences you've experienced or pain that you've felt or happiness that you've felt, whatever it is, then I think that that lying is not good. But at the same time, one thing Marlon Brando said once is all acting, all art is lying for a living. So in a sense, when you do this sort of stuff, you are lying, but you're trying to cover it up, because in there the truth always gets in, whether you like it or not. It seems to creep into your work. So that's how I feel about that. You can sort of run from it, but it just comes.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Now, something else too that I figured or found out about you was, and I didn't know this, is that you're also you're a graphic design illustrator.
Yeah. So one thing I'm working on at the moment, which is quite exciting, but it's taking forever, is a comic. I want to make a graphic novel, and I basically do artwork, and I work with another producer of mine who is we're both together trying to put together a graphic novel. And I'm a big fan of cheesy action movies. I love my Steven Seagal films. I love my Van Damme movies, all this sort of stuff. People laugh at me for it, but I just love it. I'm just an Expendables freak. I saw 1, 2, and 3. I went to the premieres and loved it. Anyway, so I'm working on a graphic novel that is a sort of Steven Seagal movie on steroids, that
nice.
sort of thing. And it's
Nice.
basically, at the moment it's called Sword, but I'm probably going to change the title. But it's about a guy who looks like Seagal, acts like Seagal, fights like Seagal, and he comes into this, world of shit, basically, where he's up against the Japanese mafia, he's up against all these guys that want to kill him. They stole, basically, a samurai sword that was gifted to him from his sensei, and they leave him for dead, and then he goes on the rampage. And we're talking to some really exciting people about bringing this to life, and, it's the ultimate goal is to send it through to someone like Seagal and say, look, this is what inspired me to do this. But I'm working on that. I'm working on another animated motion movie of my poetry. So there's two sort of projects I want to do. But the comic and the graphic book is really exciting, and it's coming together very nicely. And once that's released, I think it'll be really cool. But yeah, I think I like to do the artwork as much as I can. It takes a lot longer than writing, believe it or not.
Right.
At least for me. But it's something I love as well.
That's awesome. Now, did you go to school for art at all, or?
No, completely self-taught. What I do is I sketch. Comics usually work where you make thumbnails. Thumbnails are like really basic scribbles, sketches. They just set a scene. And then you move on to what's called pencils. So you literally start detailing it with pencils, and then you move on to inks. Inks is doing the fine art, and then you color it, and then you add the script. So what I'm doing with this project is I do the thumbnails and the pencils, and my friend who's I'm doing the production with of this graphic novel, he'll do the inking and the color, and he's a professional manga artist, Japanese manga artist, and I've written the script for this, and together we're going to release this project. So that's why it takes so long, because I'm not a natural artist, but I can do enough.
Right.
And then I've written the script for this, and then he works and he brings the color to it and basically makes it as sexy as possible. But we're going to go to a few Comic-Cons and probably head to the States next year, I think. And hopefully, it's going to take off, because the comic world is a really appreciative world. If you do something that looks quite cool, quite different, there's a lot of good reception for it.
Would you like to do that more, do you think, with the graphic novels, comic books, or?
Well, just purely because of how long it takes. If I were to keep doing this stuff, I'll probably be about 60 before I do the next one. But I want to concentrate on... my writing is my first passion. It's my greatest passion. And I just want to concentrate on talking about, just serious topical issues. I think that's something I want to do more in the future. I want to do books that really tie into something that's going on in the world, that people can relate to, and that touches them in a different way. So to answer your question, writing is my first passion. Other things I've looked at, I definitely want to stage a play at some point. I'd love to do that here in the UK, and and see where that goes from there.
Nice. Now, how about I remember last time you really blew me away, because you were telling us, actually you were working on the graphic novel. I remember you were telling us about the graphic novel then, and it's been like a year since we talked to you. So, but you also had like all these other things in the works. So, as I ask you now, how many different projects do you have in the works?
Well, there's Wild Horses just got released. I've done the first draft of a book which I've called September, and that's basically sort of like a 9.5 weeks Last Tango in Paris erotic drama. It's a very deep, very dark. It's a sort of like it's what 50 Shades of Grey should have been like. It's not some. So I don't know, man. I'm not a fan. I don't know about you, but I hate that book so much with a passion. So I think. I don't know if you've seen Last Tango in Paris, the movie with Marlon Brando, or 9.5 Weeks with Mickey Rourke, but I always wanted to write a really dark, romantic, adult, erotic drama, and that's what I've done at the moment. That's going to be the next release. But I'm working on another book, which is going to be quite special, and that's called again, that's just in the planning stages, but it's dealing with atheism in the world today, and it's analyzing, the fact that so many more people are adopting atheism in this world, and I just want to look at the reasons behind that. Why is that the case? Is it more in certain countries? Are people ashamed of admitting that that they basically don't believe in God? So it's analysing that. That's something I'm quite excited about. And beyond that,
that's going to be that's going to really ruffle some feathers. I mean, that's the one thing they always say: politics and religion, don't talk about it. And you're going to write a book about it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just before this butterfly room, I was thinking. I came to a point where I thought, well, like this Cannibal Metropolis, which I think we discussed last time, has been doing really well, and we made it across the desk of Eli Roth. It made it across the desk of Lloyd Kaufman, who heads up Troma Entertainment in New York, and he got to see some cool people, and I thought, well, I could do this. This was very comfortable, but there was something that was always biting me, and I was thinking, well, I like writing about all this serious stuff, and if I deny myself that, it's going to really piss me off. So I thought, I've got to do it. And you're right, politics and religion, but I think the way I'm going to discuss this book is there's no opinion. My opinion doesn't come into it. It's going to be a work of fiction based on fact. I'm interviewing, at the moment I'm in my research stage, interviewing loads of people about what they think. I'm interviewing people who are atheists, who maybe have recently adopted that. I've been interviewing people who are Republicans, who can't understand at all why anyone would even want to consider being an atheist. I've been talking to agnostics. I've been talking to Democrats who politically inclined Democrats who are on the fence and they're not sure. And I just wanted to ask the question, like, why is it now more than ever the numbers of atheists is growing? I mean, does that say something about the world? Does it say something about the youth? Does it say something about the way politics is now with social media, with just people becoming more aware and writing blogs? They're not relying on TV, they're not relying on books. So I just wanted to investigate this because I think at the heart of everything I do is a curiosity. And I think, politics and religion, they say, are two things that you shouldn't discuss, but I think it's good to get out in the open to start a debate and a discussion about it, not to take a firm line, because if you just take one line, you're missing out on so many different perspectives. That's my belief anyway.
Yeah, I that's going to be interesting. That's going to be a real good one.
Yeah, thanks. I think that should be it's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to be interesting, and the artwork is going to be very interesting because it's going to be starting. The base it's going to start from is countries like India, who are very religious, but within those countries, you've got this rising youth who are fighting the system. They're the ones who are saying, let's stick up for women's rights, let's stick up for, against homophobia, and these are the same people who are saying, well, I am an atheist and I'm proud of it, which is very dangerous. I mean, in a sense, India is one massive red state sometimes, and it can sometimes be, especially now, it's a Republican heartland in terms of beliefs. So I wanted to investigate it from that perspective, but I wanted to talk about it globally because it seems to be happening globally as well. And there's a reason behind it, and I've got to get to understanding why.
Interesting. Now, how about any more biographies?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I get asked all the time. But I've done 2 Mickey Rourke books. I think that's enough on him. But I was really at an advanced stage doing a book on Val Kilmer. And I still may return to that. There was a lot of interest in that. Val himself was interested in it. I was about to fly over to LA to interview him. But I sort of, like I was telling you, I got to a point where I was like, oh man, do I want to keep writing about other people, or do I want to write about what, stuff I want to write about? So it sort of came to a standstill. But there's that. I may return to it. There was a biography I was really close to doing of Some of your listeners may remember the actor Richard Grieco. Richard Grieco was on 21 Jump Street back in the day in Booker. Great actor, sort of real favourite of mine. And we got to really advanced stages to the point where I was going to meet him up. And it's still a story that I may want to go back to because he's a really interesting guy. But yeah, I mean, I love movies. There's so many different actors I want to write about. I've been thinking of an idea for something about Marlon Brando, who's probably my favourite actor alongside Mickey Rourke. Before Brando died, he was going to do a project which was called Brando and Brando. It was basically about a kid who comes to follow the American dream. He wants to be an actor. He finds his way to Marlon Brando somehow, and this is a Brando in his later days. You know, he's approaching the end of his life, and he's trying to convince the guy, look, this might be the American dream to you, but there's a price to pay. And I think in a way that's a good way of meeting biography with fiction. That's a story I want to return to because it was a film he never got to make, but the script was made, and it's just, and it really got me curious because he's someone I have so much respect for, and he really thought Hollywood was so corrupting, and I believe that too. And I thought it would be a good story because today's age more than ever, I think people are obsessed with celebrity. They're obsessed with being famous, with the idea of being famous. Not so much being famous, but what it involves or what they think it involves. So I think that story would be a really cool story to talk about. So I think that mixes biography and fiction together. But nice. To answer your question, the Val Kilmer book may be happening. You'll have to watch the space on that one.
Very, very nice. And again, it just proves completely, totally driven, as always, is Suarav.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So the book Wild Horses and all the books, where can everybody buy them at? Where can they find them? Where can they find you?
Well, all my books are on Amazon, Amazon US, in all over the world, Amazon Japan, wherever you are. They're on Barnes & Noble. They're on iTunes. If you've got a Nook, they're on through the Nook workshops and websites. But the main ones to look out for are Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, also Waterstones, which is a bookshop, retail. And website-wise, I'm on www.sauravdutt.com. On my website, I've got interviews with loads of guys. I blog about loads of different things. I do a few interviews with a few actors. Robert Lasado, who's been on your show, he's a poet. He writes poetry, and me and him, we've got a lot in common in terms of our writing. So we had some really good. I've done 2 really cool interviews with him on my website about poetry and about writing, and other actors like Jeff Wincott, and loads of blogs about different stuff, about politics, about writing, about social issues, and anyone that wants to find out about all my books can find out on there. And I just want to add about Wild Horses. Wild Horses was originally a story based on a screenplay Mickey Rourke has been writing, which I found out about, but he's not done anything with it because Hollywood moves real slow. But I read a treatment about it, and I thought to myself, this is a great story, and it inspired me to write Wild Horses. And anyone who's read the book will know that it's very similar to the actual story of Mickey Rourke and his own brother, who passed away from cancer. And the brothers within the book mirror Mickey and his brother Joey very much. So if anyone's interested in Mickey Rourke, I think they'll find Wild Horses even more interesting because of that backstory.
Wow, very interesting, very cool, very nice. Suarav, you've done it again.
Thank you, Bay.
We might not be Russia, we might not be Iran, but we are the U.S., and we always bring you here.
Yeah, well, I've been all over the globe with that project, but yeah, I mean, who would have thought Iranian TV would be interested in what I'm doing, but they are.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
All right, so next one. I mean, you always keep in touch, but next book. You know, you're always welcome back here.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, and you know, I'm getting great feedback from your wife. Actually, she's like a huge fan.
Yep.
She's a huge fan of what I do, and I'm really appreciative of Totally Driven and loving all the new guests you're having all the time. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next time round, definitely.
Cool. And I have to pass hellos on from my wife to you, and also as well as the voice of Totally Driven Radio, Mr. John Garceau.
Oh yeah, awesome dude. My hello and waves back to both of them.
Awesome. Saurav, again, thank you so much. And I guess now we'll let you go to bed.
Well, I tell you what, it's 2:15 in the morning here, and I have no intention of going to bed just yet.
You are a madman. You really are.
You guys have fun, and all the best for the show, and speak to you soon.
You too. Thanks, Saurav. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, there he goes, Mr. Saurav Dutt. Check him out. Look for his books on Amazon. He's on social media. He's on Facebook. He's on Twitter. You can check out his website. That dude, I mean, that dude's an inspiration, man.
Absolutely.
You're almost to his level, Nick. You're almost there.
I don't think so, dude. Like, he's on a whole different, like, level of existence.
He
You know
really
what I mean?
is.
Like, he's a beast.
He really is. That's funny. I thought the graphic novel came out. That scares me that he's still working on it. And that was over a year ago we talked to him.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
See, at that point, I would say to myself, all right, I don't want to do a graphic novel. Let's just do a regular comic book.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I would totally have to cut it down to size.
That's funny.
Oh, too friggin' funny.